A new Robin Hood movie starring Hugh Jackman has just been announced, and the overwhelming response has been, who wants to see this? Why are they even making this in the first place? If nobody wants to see the death of Robin Hood where he's no hero, why are they making it in the first place? Well, to answer that question, we have to understand two things. What's a myth? And what's the myth of Robin Hood trying to tell us?
Architectural Outcast.
Randy here from the Architectural Outcast. Movies and TV shows, stories in general, are very rarely told in isolation. More often than not, they're engaged in conversations with other stories. To its credit, this new Hugh Jackman movie is being upfront with its purpose, its place in the conversation. It's not meant to entertain, it's meant to kill Robin Hood, to destroy the myth. This new Robin Hood movie is playing a very old game. Not subtly, and I would argue not very well, but it's still a very old game. And the argument goes something like this. Ms. Lie. We tell you the truth. We tell you what really happened. So therefore, you should ignore the myth and pay attention to what we are teaching you. The problem with this argument is that Ms. and history are two different things, and Ms. never claimed to tell the truth. They're about orientation over accuracy. They're how cultures tell the world what they value. They're how they pass those values on to the next generation. They tell the viewer how to make sense of a chaotic world and how they should behave within that chaotic world. This new movie is letting the mask slip. They're telling us the values that they want to destroy right on the tin. He's no hero. Some 90 years after the adventures of Robin Hood, they're still trying to delegitimize Robin Hood. They're terrified of the lessons that were personified by Errol Flynn. Everybody knows the famous scene. Robin crashing Prince John's party, stag over his shoulders. But it's the first scene in the movie that sets the context for Robin's oh-so-rude interruption. Much the miller's son poaches a deer, and he's caught red-handed by some of Guy of Gisborne's men. They take him into custody, and things are not going to go well for old Much. Robin of Locksley shows up, demands to know what's going on. Gisborne's men tell him, we caught this guy poaching the king's deer. We're taking this criminal in for punishment. Robin tells them, you don't have authority here. These are my lands. They try to pull rank. Do you realize who we're working for? Robin tells them, don't care. You don't have authority here. Hit the bricks. Guy raises his mace. He's just going to kill Mush and be done with it. Robin shows that he's willing to use violence to enforce his rights. Gisborne backs down. He realizes he's getting into a quagmire. If he pushes too hard, things can snowball. Robin is in his legal rights. Politically, though, way more complicated. The scene concludes with Much swearing an oath of loyalty to Robin. Robin now has an obligation to protect Much. And we're also told that Prince John is hosting a banquet at Nottingham Castle. He's trying to recruit nobles to his side. Skullduggery is afoot in the kingdom. Outside of the Saxon-Norman issues, Robin now realizes he's in the crosshairs of some very powerful and influential people, up to and including Prince John. And the first thing that these powerful and influential people are going to try to do in an effort to delegitimize Robin's authority is get rid of Much the miller's son. Robin has two choices at this point. He could go defensive. He could ford up, call in every favor of all the nobles in his network and try to make it as painful as possible to come after him. Or he can go on the offensive. Now we all know Robin goes on the offensive, But the devil's in the detail. How he chooses to go on the offensive is what matters. Robin crashing Prince John's party uninvited would have been a crime. Assaulting guards in the process of crashing that party would have also been a crime. Bringing a dead stag while you crash the party? Also a crime. When Robin throws the stag on the table in front of Prince John, not only does it rub Prince John and the other Norman nobles' faces in the fact that Robin just poached a king's deer, the act in of itself would have been a crime. Backtalking and mocking Prince John, you guessed it, another crime. Openly flirting with Maid Marian, not only does that humiliate her suitor, old Guy of Gisborne, it disrespects royal authority, the one seeking the marriage between old Guy and Marian. Crime? Check. Publicly calling Prince John a traitor? Very much a crime. By the time Robin escaped the party, no one cared what Much the Miller's son had done. They had much bigger fish to fry. Robin had taken all the heat off Much and put him on his own shoulders. That's the type of leadership that inspires absolute loyalty. The lesson that we're supposed to learn here isn't that Robin commits all these crimes, no matter how noble the cause might have been, but how he goes about doing it, with a twinkle in his eye, a smile on his lips, while having the time of his life. The mistake that all these modern deconstructions of Robin Hood make is they try to frame him as a revolutionary figure seeking to burn down the system. Robin Hood is no rebel. He's a restorative figure. Prince John's banquet is formal, hierarchical, and rigid, where they're using ceremony and beautiful courtly language to hide and justify the fact that they're plotting treason. And then in waltzes Robin, who throws out the Normans' playbook by stepping outside of their hierarchy. He treats Prince John with the tolerant good humor of somebody acting ridiculous. The moment you start arguing about illegitimate authority, you're acknowledging the person has authority. Robin's lighthearted banter and playful attitude strips Prince John of all his authority, and this is true even when Prince John tries to shoehorn Robin back into the hierarchy by offering him one of the highest status seats in the room, the one facing Prince John. Robin's immediate response to climb on and walk on the table and then rip apart and eat the food with his hands, while again being very playful, also immediately reestablishes himself as being outside the hierarchy by rejecting its decorum. Robin Hood's overall demeanor, his good humor and playful attitude signals to the room and to us, the audience, that this is a man who is so self-confident in who he is, what he's doing, and the righteousness of his cause that he has no need to posture, to make grand speeches, to rage, that his words and actions will speak for themselves. This is what makes Robin's accusation of treason sting and gives it the whiff of truth. You can't dismiss Robin out of hand as some troublemaking malcontent. Prince John has to kill Robin. Otherwise, as long as Robin lives, it gives his words legitimacy. Marian is the key to understanding what's going on in this scene. She's a grounding figure, the defender of legitimate authority. Marian is sitting next to Prince John, arguably the second most powerful person in the room. And when Robin is bantering with Prince John, she is the only one who speaks up to chastise Robin for disrespecting Prince John. And you all will notice what Robin says in response. It's a pity your words aren't as beautiful as you are. Marian is the only person in the room that Robin treats with respect, and he tacitly acknowledges, as the defender of legitimate authority, Marian's right to speak up. And he doesn't argue with her, But what he is saying is, you can't see what's right in front of your eyes. That chump you're sitting next to isn't legitimate authority. And later, when Marion accuses Robin of speaking treason, Robin again accepts as the defender of legitimate authority, she has the right to call out treasonous behavior. So he doesn't argue with her. But when he says, yeah, I speak it fluently, he's not admitting to being a traitor. He's saying, I'm calling it out. Prince John has just announced that he's deposed King Richard's regent, and John's going to rule in his place. Yeah, he's going to try to rescue his brother, but in the meantime, we're doing things my way. Robin has just said before Marion interrupted, you don't have the authority to do that. So he's saying to Marion again, you can't see what's right in front of your eyes. Marion is very consistent throughout the movie. She remains loyal to legitimate authority as embodied in King Richard. Marion starts off supporting Prince John because based upon John's status and position in society, he's supposed to be the ultimate defender of legitimate authority in King Richard's absence. It's only after Marion is in Sherwood Forest and sees firsthand the results of John's actions, the suffering of the people, and sees that Robin and his merry men are the real defenders of legitimate authority, is when she switches her support from John to Robin. Marion's ability to acknowledge what John was really up to and thus move her support to Robin came about because of Robin's behavior, his light-hearted, fun-loving attitude at the banquet. It disarmed her defenses and allowed her to evaluate what Robin was saying, his arguments, on their own merits.
Randy, this is all fine and good, but this is just a movie. What does it have to do with our lives? Why would anybody waste their time and energy trying to undermine or destroy this lesson?
Well, about that, let me tell you all a story. When I was 19, my brother was 18, just out of high school, there was a major event, shocking even, that happened in my hometown. Some authority types asked me and my brother if we would come down to their lair. You could even call it their castle, as conscientious citizens to help them figure out all this event. My brother and I weren't involved in this situation. In fact, the first we even heard about it was thanks to that phone call. So we're like, okay, we'll help out. Moments after walking into the banquet hall, we realized it was a setup. There was a lot of authority types in the room, and there was even a couple of innocent bystanders hanging around to observe what happened. It didn't take 30 seconds for the conversation to turn hostile. And not long after that, the guy doing all the talking was leaning over my brother who was sitting in a chair screaming. And he was saying some really foul stuff, like about our mother and sisters. Why they were targeting my brother is because he had a reputation for being a bit of a hothead. You pushed his buttons and he could become emotional really quick. But he wasn't reacting. And the situation is getting really awkward. And then the guy doing all the talking, or screaming, realized he wasn't the dominant personality in the room. No one was paying attention to him because everybody was looking at me. I'm standing, leaning my shoulder against the door frame with my thumbs tucked in my belt, completely relaxed. And I'm watching all of this, the guy scream at my brother, with genuine amusement. Not ironic or jeering or mocking, but genuine amusement. The guy comes stalking over and gets nose to nose, and he starts screaming at me, saying all the same foul stuff. I never reacted. Same relaxed posture, same twinkle in my eye, little smile on my face. And after a while, things get really awkward. People start shuffling their feet, coughing, clearing their throat. Guy stops, and we just stare at each other for a bit. And then the guy yells at me, "You, get out of here and never come back." And the only thing I said the entire time, from the time I walked in the door to the time I got kicked out, was, I didn't think this place worked that way. And this guy lost his ever-loving mind. He started calling me every name in the book. I had to look up some of them just so I would know what I'd been called. And he started poking my chest, screaming at me, "Get out of here, get out of here." Lots of people have been hauled into a castle against their will. As far as I know, I'm the only one who's ever been thrown out of a castle and told to never come back. Now, what was going on with all this? First, with my brother. As often the case with family members, particularly ones that are really close, my brother and I could communicate without talking. We could communicate without even looking at each other. And my brother told me later, if I was so relaxed and finding all of this amusing, why did he have to get upset? Now, with the guy doing all the screaming, my relaxed posture and twinkle in the eye stripped him of any authority. He might have had all the trappings of authority, the piece of metal on his chest, the weapon on his hip, but I refused to acknowledge that he had the authority to act the way he was. As he continued to escalate, and I, and by extension my brother, stayed here, it became obvious to everyone in the room what he was up to. Now, he had two choices at this point. He could throw us in the dungeon and then continue with whatever he was planning without us doing anything to justify it, pure tyranny, or two, he could choose to get rid of us as quickly as possible. Fortunately for everybody involved, he chose option 2. I like to think I'm a pretty clever fella, but I didn't invent the wheel. Where do you think I learned this concept from? And you know who else understood this concept? Martin Luther King Jr. When you refuse to acknowledge the legitimacy of somebody's authority, even when they use water cannons and dogs, it becomes obvious what's going on. Look at all the recent protests. All the shouting and name-calling and escalation. Not only have people forgotten what the whole point was in the first place, it's actively undermined the legitimacy of everybody's position. And then there's the deeper issue. No one's concerned about legitimate authority. The argument is all about who gets to wield the authority. Legitimacy no longer matters. At any rate, I hope I've given you all something to think about, and until next time, y'all be safe. If you all are still here, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. While you're at it, why don't you like this video, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell. You can hear me yammer on about something else next time, and feel free to share this video far and wide.
Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment.